everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Mahmoud. I'm the founder and CEO of Axion AI. I have Francis joining us today, Francis Biro. He is the Vice President of AI Strategies at HG Sites. Um, he has a lot of experience in the field, and by his role, you can tell that this is going to be a very interesting conversation because we are going to touch base on AI and the impact of AI in his role and in his company as well. Without further ado, I am going to pass it to Francis. Francis, first of all, thank you for your time, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So, as you mentioned, I'm the VP of AI strategy at HG Insights. And prior to that, I was the head of product at Mad Kudu and then co-founder. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about AI, go to market. It's kind of like my bread and butter. So, whatever insights I can share, happy to share it with the folks here.
Cool, cool. Thank you. Yeah. So can we start with a very high level overview of HT sites? What are you guys doing there, and what's your role look like?
Yeah. So at AG Insights, essentially we provide the data fabric for go-to-market teams to operate. So really, it's about serving the mid-market and enterprise, all the way from like the hyperscalers to Fortune 5000, where we provide them with the best in breed technographics data, firmographics, and intent data to help them identify which accounts to go after, why, and what to tell them. And so there's a vast suite of products that we offer to deliver on that value prop. And yeah, a big change that we're bringing to the market that we're starting to expose customers to is also um, building what we call the agent fabric. So allowing customers to build AI agents on top of our data fabric by exposing all of our data through MCPs, which are kind of the APIs for LLMs. So it's a pretty exciting time. We're seeing a lot of companies start thinking about building their own go-to-market agents internally, and it's about figuring out what is the right data foundational layer to inform all those agents so that they operate with the context that they need. Oh, I think you're on mute. Classic.
I am. It's a very interesting point. So my next question would be, um, why would someone why would someone choose HC sites over its competitors? What do you guys do better than your competitors?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, but the big one or the big two I would look at is kind of related to the idea of being an open platform. So that's from an input perspective and from an output perspective. So from an input perspective, we are the only ones that are willing to take on first party data. So every company has their own data that they've accumulated around their customers, their prospects. Every customer has a different schema, or like their first party data looks different. And most vendors don't want to integrate that. So we actually take that first party data in and we'll marry it with our best in breed third party data to allow the go to market team to have a holistic perspective and view on their customer. So that's kind of number one from an input perspective. And then from an output perspective, we are an open platform in the sense that we integrate with most of the modern tech stack. So we're not trying to be the UI that people log into. We're not necessarily trying to own the workflow. We're rather trying to power different workflows. That's why we embed ourselves into Salesforce, Outreach, Gong, all of these tools that are out there. And as well as providing our data through an MCP layer, which is like very unique today in the market, so that people can actually build their AI agents on top of our data rather than trying to own the AI agent platform. It's like we strongly believe that Similarly, people are not going to ditch Salesforce tomorrow. So it's important for us to integrate with Salesforce. Similarly, we believe that most enterprises are going to build their agents in Microsoft Copilot Studio, in Agentforce. And so it's important that we can power those agents in there rather than try and displace those agentic platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more you can already get out of the box is easier for the client because they don't have to go and do the integration themselves then. And it's a lot of data related work. So you probably need a dedicated data engineering team to just, marry them together. But you guys are doing it. So that make perfect sense for someone to uh, get advantage on that. Great. So, next question would be like, how do you reach out to a client? How do you present yourself, and how do you get your leads?
Yep. So I'll talk more about the Mad Kudu side because I'm not entirely familiar with how it's done today at HG. But at Mad Kudu, we were a very inbound focused shop. So a lot of the customers that were coming to us were coming through word of mouth and referrals. We operated in a fairly niche market, with B2B SaaS being kind of our core segment. So it's a small market where people talk and people share what's working. So as soon as you have something that's working fairly well, it is going to drive a bit of a network effect, and quite a few people then start showing up. The We had a bit of a deliberate strategy in going after kind of flagship customers that weren't necessarily like, we didn't necessarily chase the IBM and like the big gigantic organizations, but we were rather looking for companies that were not too far away from us, but from a brand perspective, were hitting above their weight a lot. So, for example, one of our first customers was a company called Segment that then got acquired by Twilio, and we acquired them as a customer around their Series A. So they were not a huge company, but they were growing at an incredible pace, and every scale up was looking at them as the new model of growth. So like every scale up or companies that were 2 or 3 stages later, we're looking at Segment and trying to figure out what can we learn from what Segment is doing to apply at our company. So by getting Segment as a customer, where we spent a lot of time, we went on site. Like I would go on site every single week to spend an afternoon at the Segment offices to help them and really use them as a design partner to define what product we had to build to deliver value for them. By doing that and getting them as a customer, then we got a lot of traction from companies that were 2 or 3 stages of growth later. We're saying, oh, if Segment is using you, like given how Segment is growing, we want to do the same. So we want to work with you. And we reapplied this a couple of times as we were growing. So then like Gong, for example, was one of our like kind of flagship customers a few years ago, where when we acquired them, they were still still fairly far from becoming a public company. Now I think they're getting closer, but at the time, every public company was looking at them because they had run a Super Bowl ad, and so they were kind of punching above their weight. And so everybody was looking at them from the public market as, okay, like this is the kind of go to market that we want to operate. So again, having them as a customer and having them speak fairly openly about how we were helping them was incredibly helpful to build our credibility and allow us to go hunt for or actually get inbound from customers that were even bigger. So that's kind of how step by step we were able to get into larger and larger organizations.
Great, great, cool. So following up to that question, are you guys like doing any sort of lead generation or outreach and advertising, or is it just word of mouth?
It's primarily word of mouth. We run some minor ad campaigns with more or less success. Of course, like you run the typical like competitive ads here and there, and then like from time to time we'll run specific campaigns when we're either releasing something on the product side or just to create some awareness in the market.
Understood, understood. Great.
And events for a while. I mean, things have changed a lot and still are changing a lot, but events for a while were a pretty good source. Again, because word of mouth is so strong and we were operating in a bit of a niche segment, like going to these events, it increased the concentration of your potential customers. Like all of a sudden, you have out of 100 people, like 50 of them are good candidates to become customers. So like
Mhm.
going to those events made a lot of sense to get face time and to meet with prospects. So that was a pretty big one. I think it's important to realize that you don't necessarily get deals directly from going to an event,
Sure.
but it just like reinforces the awareness. And people had heard about Matt Kudu, and then when they saw us in person, they realized, oh, and yeah, okay, like these
It
people
is
know what they're talking
putting the
about.
face
I
on
know
the
who they are. Yeah, it puts a face to the name.
cool, cool. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Networking is probably the best way of advertising, and probably the one of the oldest way of advertising as well. So I guess some hypothetical question. Where do you see AG sites going in next, say, 12 months? Um, where, sorry, let's take a step back. Where do you ideally want to take the company uh, in next 12 months? And maybe what are some of the challenges that may hold you back to get to that position?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. I think from I'll start with one that's like directly related to my scope. So internally, I think there's a pretty significant change that we want to drive to make the company AI native. And I think AI native is a term that's kind of thrown out there a lot, and it takes a lot of transformation. It takes like changing how we think about any kind of problem that we're faced with. It changes how we solve problems. It's building a new mindset, new habits, a new culture, and a new way of operating. So that's one really fundamental change that we want to operate. And again, like it's not AI native for the sake of being AI native. It's because today I think that what is going to define winners and losers in the market is going to be velocity, and AI is a terrific way to gain execution velocity. So that's one big change that we want to bring to the company and really radically transform how we operate so that we can ship faster, react faster to customer needs, and adapt faster to a changing landscape. Right, the world is just changing very quickly, so you need to adapt to that at least as quickly. That's one internally, and then from an external perspective, I think we really want to be in a position where we are the de facto kind of like data fabric that the enterprise is going to be using to inform their go to market strategy and execution. The big challenge or question is around how quickly the enterprise is going to adopt agentic workflows. I think there's a lot of talk about it.
Mhm.
There's a question as to how quickly companies are going to start successfully building, deploying, and using agentic systems that we know will be able to power. But like, when is that going to happen? Is it in the next 12 months, 24 months? That's a part where there's a bit of unknown. And
Uh,
of course, like from a change perspective, like this, like it's the same challenge internally and externally. It's like, how do we get people to embrace, not just embrace from a philosophical perspective, but from a habit perspective, using AI on a day-to-day basis and really being AI first, so that when you think about solving a problem, the question should be, is there an AI tool or is there an AI way
Already
to solve this
fully.
problem? If not, then could I build one rather than like doing the way we've always done it?
Yeah, I mean the term AI, agentic AI, has been thrown like wildly in the industry. If you browse through the companies, you'll see like in the subtitle it always says using AI, doing this, doing that. Pretty much 90% of the companies, but it's important to understand how you're using it, right? Um, Great, great. It's very good to know. So again, like if you didn't have any restrictions, or if you, let's say, in a perfect world, again, I think I'm punching on the same question again. In a perfect world, where would you wanna, where do you see HG sites in 12 months?
I think in 12 months, so I think similarly to what I was mentioning, I think there's a big element of kind of the efficiency or productivity of each team member. I think today we have specific metrics. The way I look at it very simply is we have a certain AR that we can divide by number of employees to get a sense of like what is the revenue per employee. We have a certain growth rate that we can again divide by number of employees. And I think I want to increase that number by at least 30% across the team, right? So we need every employee should allow us to grow faster. Every employee should allow to support more revenue. And that's not just by saying we're going to force people to work harder. It's by making sure that we identify what are the areas where humans have the highest leverage. So that's really one really core element, and that's really important because it ties back to what kind of runway we have, like how much impact we can have on the market with you know the team and the um yeah and the capital that we have. That's one. And then um I think today um we are really seen as a data provider, essentially of third party data at HG Insights. Like we have the best in breed technographics out there, so that's what we're selling to customers. I want to in 12 months to be at a point where we're essentially challenging and have ripped Zoom Info out of a lot of our accounts. So I think for a long time, Zoom Info was kind of seen as the gold standard for go to market data. They have some significant challenges, like the fact that they don't integrate first party data at all. They don't really play. They don't really have an open platform. It's really like you have to use Zoom Info Copilot. Like they push some data into Salesforce, but they're not really a buy to build uh, style of company. So that's the big thing. In 12 months, I would be um, if everything goes well, we would be in a place where we're ripping Zoom Info out of, um, you know, multi double digits of our customers.
Understand. Yep, yep. Cool. So, like, if let's say hypothetically speaking, the company grows significantly, like you get a bunch of new customers, clients coming in all at once. Are you guys like well equipped to face that, or do you have to grow with them rapidly? How does it work? How does the growth work?
Yeah. Um, that again goes to the point of like productivity, right? So the plan is to grow, right? And with the growth plan that we have today, the expectation is that we shouldn't need to hire um, if at all in the next 12 months. Of course, like you want to replace, attrition and things like that. And we might also have to, potentially change like team members that are not ready to fully embrace the new AI native world that we're living in. But I think it's going to be a lot of work in terms of, it's always like people, process, and product. So what are the tools that we have? What are the processes we put in place? And are the people equipped to handle those so that we can have a highly increased efficiency and productivity?
Great, great, cool. So we're almost at time. Any last few words for um, how I guess one last question before we wrap up. Where do you see the industry moving forward? Like, because again, the AI term has been thrown left and right everywhere. Like everybody's an AI shop, everybody's working with AI. But I have a feeling that in a short term or near future, there's going to be a lot of companies who will like get weeded out because, how they use the AI rather than what they're trying to do. But where do you see AI being the part of companies moving forward?
Yeah, I think we are going to see like a significant change in the market where I think it's a continuation of the movement to cloud, where I think AI is going to lead to a proliferation of SMBs, right? It is AI models are still fairly quote unquote expensive, but we're seeing like the costs go down at every new version that's released. So I think it in my mind, it's not crazy to believe that 12 months from now, every single like sub vertical in the world is going to have three or four companies solving for that. And those companies are going to be maybe like a 2 or 3 person shop, right?
Hmm.
Because there's so much that we're going to be able to delegate to AI and to agents and to copilots
Hmm.
that we will be able to have a few people that have some subject matter expertise that are able to produce software that solves a problem for a very small niche that they understand well. I think it's going to be very hard for um, companies to own like bigger segments
Yeah.
because there's going to be so much fragmentation that's possible,
Mhm.
um, that it's going to be rough. And I think we're gonna see like an even bigger, I think like similar to the US like wealth, I guess we're gonna see like a bigger disparity between like the huge winners and
Mhm.
all of the small players, right? I think like the Anthropic, OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, they're just going to crush it even more. And they're going to own a gigantic part of this future, most likely. And I think the middle is going to be a challenge. I think all of the companies today that are in this like kind of like 5 million run rate, 10 million, I think it's going to be a pretty rude awakening for them because they're going to have a lot of competitors in every single like small market, and it's going to be a challenge for them to win. So I think that's a big change on the market, and then for people individually, I think it's AI is going to be baked in everywhere. There's going to be a lot of tools that use AI, and I think it's going to be easier and easier to use. Where I think today it feels a little bit like magic, and 2 years ago everybody was saying like prompt engineering is the job of the future. I haven't heard about this in a while. Now we're talking
Yeah.
about how training large language models is the job of the future when we see Meta throwing like 100 million at some of the engineers that they're hiring.
Yeah.
So I think the all of this is going to evolve and settle to a point where it's going to be used is going to be commoditized, and most people will have the ability to use AI without necessarily even noticing it. So I don't think the AI skills will be as critical, but I think it's going to be a change of same as digitalization, right? Like being able to do your job faster, more effectively by using the tools that are available to you. And the change to get there is going to be a little bit rough because there's a lot that's going to be changing, and people are going to have to figure out how to adapt to that and not just stick to how they used to do things. So it's like change management is going to be one of the like most painful parts of this transition.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To your first point, I think you absolutely nailed it, that there will be, in fact, it already started. There will be a little dedicated pieces of the puzzle will show up. We are one of them. So companies like us will show up, will solve one or two specific problems that make sense because for us, if we, take on advertising or workflow automation and so on and so forth, a company doesn't have to dedicate people for this kind of little things. You can just delegate it and, not worry about it, focus on your growth and whatnot. It is absolutely going to happen even faster, but uh, how fast is it going to be? It's probably interesting to see. Francis, we're at time. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate it. We had a great conversation. I'm pretty sure the audience will have uh, a lot of valuable insights. And once again, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.